What is up? What it do? What it be, people? You are now listening to Start Talks, a podcast where everything from what an engineering student does to what an engineer does in the industry is answered. We understand that majority of our listeners are high school students. Since winter break is right around the corner, it is almost time for those joyous and wonderful university applications to roll out. Considering that, we have decided to dedicate this episode to answer a few questions that were sent to us by our listeners. So let us begin. Shashwat, would you like to take the first question?
So the question is, many universities have three separate programs: computer engineering, software engineering, and computer science. If my main interest is coding, which program is more suitable for me, and should that go for every university, or does it depend on each university? So you guys would like to answer that first?
All right. So one of the key things I caught my eye was if my main interest is in coding, right? So I would one tip and advice that I would have for incoming students, right, university students, high school students incoming into university, would be that don't base your future specialization on the sole interest of like on one interest, because coding is a wide, it's a vague term because there's multiple different languages you can code in, right? And if you look into it, like one thing, like personally, I was good at Python coming in from high school, but then at York, Python is not a subject that we touch base on, right? Whereas certain other universities do. And then I also developed my skills in HTML coding, which has nothing to do with what's it called, computer engineering, which is what I'm in. So just because I have interest or expertise in certain languages, right? Not just in coding aspect, not in engineering aspect, even in like general, like different, like if it's a med aspect or like a business aspect, just because there's an interest in one specific like area of study, you should not completely divert your specialization to that, right? It should be a compilation of multiple different factors that promote you to make a decision on whether you want to go for computer software or what's it called, com sci would be something I would say from my experience.
I agree with that because I feel like an interest for coding should come with your profession or what your program you're into, right? For Felix's example, on when he said that he was someone who knew Python, I, on the other hand, was someone who like had, I would say, 3 years of Java experience before coming into university, and our university technically kept teaching us Java and kind of improved that knowledge. So I was perfectly fine, and I am someone who's interested in code, but there's a lot of aspects that pulled me into engineering. For example, there's like the hardware aspects, there's like the integration between applications, the embedded system stuff that kind of caught my eye. And if you're someone who's like main interest is coding, I would definitely suggest a career in some place like this. If you were to look at like program differences, we would say com sci is more of like the science behind the code, like why a specific code does what it does and how it does is what like comp sci is, while software engineering and computer engineering kind of works on like the integration and the application of that. Shashwat?
Yeah. So same idea with me. Like I picked computer engineering because I like the hardware side and the coding side. So the integration of just being like the same idea as electrical engineering and then computer science mixed. That was really great. And then also like when you do engineering, you get a BEng degree, and when you do computer science, you get a BSc degree. That might differ when you in the workplace, and a lot of other things. Like it really depends on which you want to look at it. So also with engineering, you can go into kind of like the business side of things. We have like courses where we look at project management and a lot of stuff like that. So I find that more interesting. Hence, I chose the engineering side. So yeah, that's just my opinion. You guys have anything more to add on? Anything?
I feel like that's right. So like to just conclude or just to answer that question,
Mm.
even though your main interest is coding, like what other aspects of coding do you like? Are you someone who's interested in like why code does what it does, or are you someone who like wants to like apply the code to like a specific hardware or see how the code works in like the real world? And I feel like that's what should be your deciding factor when it comes to choosing a program in university.
100%. Especially one more thing to just close off, especially since the person has indicated their interest is coding, and the three
Mhm.
options that they've given are also heavy coding programs, right? As Mehmet said, you got to elaborate more and like do a thorough search into what you really want out of your program and what where you see yourself in few years, like what type of work you want to be doing. I think that would really help solve the problem of like which program you should go into, the confusion that you may have.
Okay, the second question now, is residence worth the fee? This is a common question, but I've heard a lot of pros and cons about living in the residence. If the commute was 1 to 3 hours, depending per university, would I miss out on too much time, and would I waste the valuable time? Does living in residence really outweigh its cons? So, what are you guys' opinions on that?
I can definitely answer that because I'm someone who commutes to school. For the first semester, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've been switched to online. Our first year, however, majority of the first year was a time when I had to commute to university. For that moment, I believe our commute was around 1.5 hours minimum. Would you guys
Yeah,
right? And with that kind of, yes, it did take a lot of time, but our courses were, I guess, 5 to 6 courses a semester. It was definitely hard to manage, but we were able to pull through. Hats off to all of us here. Let's go, guys.
let's go.
So, like, we were able to pull through, but then considering commute time would be valid. If you have a longer commute time, I would definitely recommend residency because with residency, you can tend to be an active participant, sorry, in different university extracurriculars, different clubs, and so on and so forth. You get to meet a lot of people too. So, I feel like it would just be a different vibe. You'd have more fun. I feel like you'd be more free. You'd have more freedom in that sense. What do you guys think?
I would say it's more of a personal choice, right? Yeah, as for some people, the factoring in of resources also has to be taken into consideration if you have the amicable resources to stay on residence,
All
because
right.
it can get expensive, right? The
Yeah,
food, the stay, and stuff like that. So if you all have the resources to like invest or spend into that, I would say, right? Then for sure take residence because like Mevin did mention, it used to take us an hour and a half to get from Brampton to York, right?
That's a
Whereas
minimum. That's
like
a minimum, by the
minimum,
way.
yeah. And there are times when we have missed the bus by a few minutes, a few seconds, right? That has created another 30-minute delay into our full commute, right? And also like during winter times, as most of us know, even if you're driving, the roads get really bad. And there has been days where we reached university only after 2 hours of being on the bus, right? On one bus, and we usually take two buses. So you guys can do the math and add up the timing for that. So there is a lot of factors that has to be taken into consideration, but that was a sacrifice I think we three were willing to make for the ability to stay at home, right? I would say again, it's a personal option. If you are willing to take the not the risk, I would say, sorry, if you're willing to spend the resources for that, by all means, I would promote for someone to stay on residence.
yeah, like me as well. Like I wanted to commute, so when I was applying, I only chose universities which were like near my house. So like I already had kind of my mind made up from the start that it's fine for me to commute even if the commute takes like an hour and a half. So basically, if you already have that in your mind, you can choose universities according to that sense, and also like plan out your day in a sense. When I chose York, I knew that, oh, it's going to take me this long. I just looked at it, oh, what's the right time to get there? Like it does take a bit of time. Like as you guys said, like 1.5 hours is a long time. Like you can waste a lot of valuable time. People also say that you can do work while commuting. That's not true. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes you might have some days where if the bus is empty, yes, it might happen, but usually most of the times it's really busy. It's really hard to do any work. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of everything. So for me, it was just kind of relaxing time. Like after the long day at university, it's just the commute was that for me. Like anything else you guys want to add on?
I was gonna say, like when Shasha was mentioning, I just realized, like even though it was an hour and a half minimum of a commute, right, one way, most of the time it felt like seconds or minutes because the minute I got onto the bus, I used to knock out because most days I sleep like around 3, 4. It's not because of engineering; it's just the habit that I had, right? So between like 3 and 4, so like it was a time for me to catch up on nap that I had missed, right? On sleep I had missed.
Mhm.
So that was a valuable time for me, I guess.
See, I've always tried working on the bus, but I just never felt comfortable with like taking out my laptop and just like going ham at work because like it was just so many people. It was just really crowded at that time because it's a bus. The bus we take is normally meant to go straight to our university, so that's the last stop. So it's always crammed unless you're like in one of those early times or late times. It's always crammed. So I wasn't very comfortable with like, taking out my stuff and doing work on the bus. So that's up to you guys. But on the other hand, I also know friends who go to universities that take 3 hours to commute, but stay at home. So I know people who go to like specific universities that take that long to commute only because they wanted to stay at home and commute. And also, I know other people who, even though would only take 2 hours to commute, 1 hour to commute, would rather stay at the university. And that comes down to your preference, and if, as Philip mentioned, if you're able to handle that and all of that.
So, question number three is, say for example, I do end up choosing the computer science program. But after experience, I find out that computer engineering program or their software is ultimately a better fit for me. Is it possible to switch streams and programs? How about switching from software engineering to computer engineering or computer science?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
This is a funny question because my
Oh yeah, you want to take this one, Philip?
because before I even go into the explanation, yes, 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 as the answer to all the questions you have asked. And this part thing is this. So when I started off, when I was transitioning between high school and university, the deadline for our final acceptance that we had to do on OUAC, I had accepted my pre-med degree, all right? And that's what I was getting into. I received my scholarships for that, and everything was settled for that. 2 weeks after that, I received I received a call from York, and they gave me certain conditions, right? That like additions to my degree, which caught my interest. I was like, you know what? Maybe engineering is the route for me to take because I was still on the fence whether medicine is really the route to take or engineering. So I was able to change my program from a different university to York's engineering, right? I also got into York's engineering as a mechanical engineer because that was my initial interest point.
Mhm.
And halfway into the first semester, I had switched over to software engineering, and then I got closer with these guys, and then I also came to learn a bit more about the real difference between software and computer engineering because till that point, I did not really understand what the real difference was. I just looked at software being the top level, right? Not no hate, right? But then when I learned the difference and when I came to understand the factor of being able to have the hardware and the software component mixed together into one program, right? That again swayed me over to computer engineering. So I switched. So in short, I switched from mechanical engineering to software engineering. Now in computer engineering, almost finishing up second year soon. So it is possible to switch.
Phillips tested everything you possibly can test. So I think yeah, that kind of just sums up what the question is. It's possible to switch, especially with like transfer credits, right? Because if you're someone who's in software eng and is trying to switch into a computer eng or comp sci, your credits can be it's transferable. I believe computer eng to software eng would be really easy, but if you were to switch to like the eng to sciences, you might have to take additional math courses, I believe.
Physics and math, yeah.
Yes. So those would be the additional courses that you would have to take if you're switching, even like vice versa. If you're coming from computer science to eng, you might have to take additional physics courses or different math courses. Or if you're switching from eng to comp sci, you might have to take more of the science courses in the sense of like not science courses, math courses like Boolean math and all of that stuff, like discrete mathematics. Yeah, I would say mainly discrete mathematics and all of that.
I would just suggest, like, if you want to make the switch, just make it like as fast or as soon as possible with in your university time, because it usually gets harder as you go into upper years and stuff to switch between these courses. And also, like, what I have seen is it's generally easier to switch from an engineering degree to a computer science degree than the other way around, only because engineers do kind of do the same courses as computer science students, but we do a little bit extra courses such as physics, chemistry, and all of that. It's a little bit easier for engineers to switch. So if you're still on the fence about engineering, computer science, and you want to try out engineering for a bit, that might be a better route to go. It's just you are doing extra courses, and then if you want to ultimately switch back to computer science, it's usually easier.
Yeah, and along like Shasha just mentioned how it gets harder, which is a big factor. Not only that, it also prolongs your education period, right?
Mm,
If you decide to switch in third year, you might be adding another 2 years minimum into your study experience, unless you're again switching from engineering to comp sci. Because I'm not sure what the exact numbers, but I believe it's almost double the number of credits. Almost like I think half double or like double the number of credits you're doing in engineering in comparison to comp sci.
mm,
It's specific to a point where like if you switch out to like a different program, it's like, oh, you need like so and so's prerequisites to get to this, you know, level. So that's the main concern, because you have to meet all those prerequisites, which, as Philip mentioned, prolongs your period in school. So I'd say that kind of concludes that question about, yes, it is
mm.
possible,
Yeah, yeah.
100% to switch, but you have to consider all your points, all the main points, such as how many prereq courses you would have to take, and how long would you be in school? Are you comfortable with the time you'd be in school, and all of that before switching?
Okay. So that leads us on to the next question. So, question 4. So, when applying to these universities, I've always heard that marks take precedence over everything else. For example, certain universities require supplementary applications for the admission process, but it can't heavily impact in the way the marks can. How much time should I spend per week on application? Should that be my priority, or getting better marks in grade 12 be my priority? Basically, the question is like supplementary applications. How much are they affecting your actual application of getting into a university? So, I guess can I answer that?
Shashua, you can start with that.
Okay, so for me, in my case, I didn't do that many supplementary applications because in my engineering, the universities I applied to, they didn't require that many supplementary applications or even not a single supplementary application. So it really depends from program to program. I can't speak that much on other programs, but I have heard that there's this precedence over the supplementary application, so the grades only get you into like a certain part of their process, and then the supplementary application is what decides if you get into that program. For me, in my experience, I haven't been through this harsh supplementary application process. In my case, I just focused on my studies, getting my marks, so I do get into a program. Also, like I like to do a lot of extracurricular activities. That's just my hobby. So like I also took part in that. So that's just in my case, I didn't have to worry about that many supplementary applications.
I would say, in terms of supplementary applications, in the general perspective, not just focusing on engineers, that's when it starts to vary whether it counts or not, right?
Mhm.
For example, if you're going to be your BBAs or BComs, right? Like I had to do video interviews and also supplementary applications, right? For certain universities. I also had to that for like my medicine side, right? When I was looking into those, I also had to do certain applications, which did count for a good percentage of the choosing grade they used to do, right, for the universities.
Mhm.
So your volunteer experience, your personal portfolio does matter when it comes to certain degrees, but most universities, especially like engineering and stuff, it's your core marks that matter. The 6 courses that they require you to have from high school, those marks matter. Those marks you should take precedence over your what's it called, your supplementary applications. Some universities still do make you do they still do tell you to do supplementary applications. It might be a small thing like a small essay or like a 2-3 minute video interview, right? That they have preset. Like York had that. I would say it really depends on the university and the program you're going into. But let's say you do come to like an understanding of the fact that your university does care about the supplementary applications. You should not give full priority to that. You should find an even balance between getting the high mark as well as finishing up the supplementary application, would be something I have to say.
I'd say supplementary is kind of just the university trying to figure out if like you're just like focusing on your marks and you're not doing other stuff that you need to do. They're just trying to find out if you're able to
Yeah.
balance what you need to balance as a
Hmm.
student. So I feel like that's what you need to focus on. Like your priority should definitely be getting marks, 100%, because most universities definitely look at marks, considering the programs that we're talking about. They definitely look at marks 100%. But you should do as much as you can on the supplementary. We're not saying like completely focus on marks. We're kind of just saying fill out the supplementary as you need to. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like the balance should be there in many cases. Even if you don't have a supplementary application, like even participating in extracurricular activities helps a lot in university experience, especially like I don't want to go too much into it, but like with co-op and stuff, you can still record stuff that you did in grade 12, grade 11. So that really still helps. Like I wouldn't suggest just weighing one side. The balance thing that Phil brought up is really important, even if you don't have a strict supplementary application process.
Yeah, and don't
Right.
expect your supplementary application to carry over your average that you did not meet. So, as Mevin said, your mark is really important. And most of the time, supplementary applications are used when there are two even components for the same spot in the program, right? They check out, like, do you have a social life? Are you able? Your supplementary application, in other words, is used to like estimate how long will you really last in this program because they know the toughness, the difficulty, and the usual dropout rate and all that kind of stuff for those programs, right? So that really goes to show if you can time manage and have a lot on your plate, if you can handle everything in balance.
So the last part of that question, let me add, is
Mhm.
how can I learn to balance all of these things? I believe we addressed that on the last podcast with Kat, where she said, go for extracurriculars that you're actually passionate about. Do it for the sake of your passion about learning, rather than for the sake of, you saying that, oh, I did so and so extracurricular. So if it's something you're passionate about, I believe you'll be able to find time and you will kind of learn to balance it. So you obviously need to be realistic with your time and understand what you're able to do in the given time and what you're not able to do, and be able to say no to what you need to be able to say no to.
Okay, so that's all good points. That's the last question for this Q&A session is, universities stop looking at marks after the second semester midterm of grade 12. So this general question is, should I stop trying after my midterm marks are out? It's it's a thing that everyone wonders. I wondered it when I was in grade 11. I heard about it in grade 11 and I was like, oh, like, well, I only have to try it till like this midterm point. After that, you can do a lot of other things in grade 12. So what do you guys' opinion on that? Like, should people stop trying? Like,
See,
that's just,
the
yeah.
thing with this question is most people, including myself in high school, had the wrong perception on it. What universities actually like, your early offers and your like February, March, April offers, right? All these offers are something called conditional offers. And most people, I believe, know what the word conditional means. There is a certain requirement you still have to fulfill to for that conditional offer to become a full acceptance, right, into the program. So, like I was in IB, so my exam finished in April, and my marks came out on July 7th. So up until July 7th, there was no guarantee of my spot in the program. After July 7th, I had received my email saying you have been confirmed into the program, right? Like full confirmation. So
Mhm.
there's no like reasoning for me to get pulled out unless like I did some kind of ethical mistake or something wrong like that. That's only a way that we would get pulled out of the spot. But other than that, I had confirmed my spot. So in my case, all the way till my final exams, it mattered. Might be a different case for some people, depending on their program. But most cases, I would say to maintain your conditional offer all the way till your first year, the first semester, first day into university, you do need to maintain good marks. You can't pull off a 90 average in first semester and then decide to decline it down to a 75. That will affect you. Some universities do have high averages, the ones like in Waterloo, for example, the ones that require you to have a 95 average, right? If you get past the first round and get the conditional offer, they will tell you going forward, you need to maintain an 85. You don't have to maintain the 95. So you just have to aim and balance it at an 85. Then you're settled, right? You're good for it. So just look out for that as well.
No, I agree with Philip 100%. I understand universities only look till there, but then that doesn't mean you can just like, oh, I'm done. Now I'm living life now. I'm chilling. You can't do that. Like when you get that conditional letter on your email, it definitely says you need to maintain a so and so average to stay in the program. Like I know friends who definitely did not consider that and just went ham, skipped class and just did whatever they want, ended up not getting that conditional offer because they weren't able to meet the average that was set by the university to stay in the conditional. So yes, we would definitely say keep trying, in the sense that try to stay inside the conditional offer margin.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like I have two things to say about that. Like my perspective was like, oh, I don't need to try it after this. But what I found after is like even even after the midterm mark, there's a lot of content that's being taught to us, right? Like for example, I had calculus and physics after that midterm point. There's still content being taught in class, which is really important. That the content that I needed in first year of university, right? Like even if I did stop trying, I would still recommend pay full attention in class. Don't start skipping class. Don't start doing other stuff. You will need that knowledge in first year of university, and the first year university like professors won't know that, oh, you skipped classes and so we need to go over this again. They would always say that it was just review stuff, so you should know this stuff from grade 12. And also another point is that scholarships, that's a major point.
Mhm.
So if you're going, even if the university says, oh, you need to maintain an 80, but the university scholarships are higher than 85, and you entered the university with that condition, right? So maintaining that 85 is still important because you might not get that scholarship if you go under 85, right? Scholarship is another major thing, that the scholarship mark is going to be determined as your final mark, not as your midterm mark.
That's a valid point.
So
Yeah, that's a big point.
yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, I think that kind of like answers that question.
Mhm.
Please don't just stop trying, guys.
Yes, don't stop trying. You need all that content. You need all the scholarships, that highest mark you can get. It's really important when you enter university.
Because you can easily turn marks into currency with scholarship.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Big facts. Big facts. I think with that,
Mhm.
we wrap up our questions, right,
Yeah,
Shashwat?
I think that's those are really good questions. I think yeah, that's a wrap.
Yes. So, guys, if you do have more questions, just feel free to DM us. We're always free and happy to answer your questions that you have. So, I think with that, we can transition into our traditional tech trends. Shashwat?
Okay, so the first major tech trend, we all know that the new consoles are up. So the PS5 and the Xbox, the new consoles and next gen consoles. So I just want like a general overview. What do you guys think about those consoles? Like it's been around like a couple of weeks now because podcast goes up in December. People have been playing games. Like we have seen some thoughts on the consoles. Like what do you guys like initial thoughts?
I'm a PS5 all the way, man. By the way, it's just the controller just
Mhm,
blows everything away. The amount of immersion you get with the new controller is amazing, especially with the specs. The
mhm.
combined specs for the PS5 is just next level. I don't know how I feel about the looks.
Okay.
I guess it's like the more futuristic. It's a PS5. I guess they're trying to make it stand out from like wherever it's placed, because the older ones were just like sleek, black, and simple. So it's kind of meant to blend in with the surrounding, while the new PS5 is looking more futuristic and meant to be like, oh yeah, I'm a PS5 in this room type of look.
Yeah, like I would say I'm an Xbox guy. I've never been a PlayStation guy. Like throughout the consoles I've owned, I've only owned one PlayStation, but I regretted that. So it's just I wouldn't go out on my way getting the PS5 if I had the money or if I wanted to get one. I would always go for the Xbox. I agree with you. Like the new controller is really nice. They have kind of made the controller bigger, which they are topping the Xbox. I would just say that. Uh, it's just, it's just,
Okay then.
it's just they looked at the Xbox. They're like, oh, there's some good things going on here. Let me just do that on the PS5 side. But
All right. All right. Okay.
it's just, it's just, yeah, like both consoles are great. I think it just shows how much like consoles have progressed over the years.
Mhm.
Like starting from like even the original Xboxes and all of that. They're 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 getting up there, right? Like
They can definitely. I feel like the new consoles nowadays can definitely compete with like a mid-end gaming PC. 100%.
yeah, 100%. And then the value, what's that called? Value proposition of it, right? Like usually
100%.
gaming
Exactly.
PCs are more than $1,000, right? Like even a
Mhm.
mid-end one. But these consoles are coming in at like 500, 600, around that price range. So
They cost less than an iPhone now.
yeah,
Huh?
that's a great
Really
point.
had to
Yeah.
bring an iPhone into this.
Hey, I'm not lying. Am I lying? They have better specs than an
A better.
iPhone. Definitely more haptics than an
What
iPhone.
about the Samsung phones too? The Note, all these phones are there too.
I didn't. Yes, they are definitely cheaper and more valued than the latest flagship phones. How about that? Is
Okay,
that a better
I think that
statement
is a
for you,
better statement. Yes.
Philip? Yeah, so I definitely feel like
Mhm.
they can compete, and especially with the PS5's like expandable memory,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
I is the does Xbox come with it?
yeah, yeah. Xbox
Right?
comes with that. Yeah.
Right. But then also, did you see about the when the Xbox was released, where there's a lot of
The
videos
smoke.
on the internet of
Okay.
the smoke.
Okay. I had something to say about that. That was faked, right? They have
Wait, for
confirmed it.
real?
Yeah, they have confirmed it. It was faked. I read a lot of articles about it. It was some sort of like a skit kind of thing with like them showing. I don't know what the point of the thing was. Is just it wasn't something like the Samsungs back in the day where the phones were actually blowing up, right?
Wow.
I'll
Okay.
tell you that
Yes.
much.
Yes.
There's only
Yes.
there's only one video that was surfaced online, and then we can't like unless we see more videos in the future, then yes, we could conclude that oh they are smoking up, but like I'm pretty sure that was faked.
Yeah, because
So
Xbox, I think Xbox tweeted out saying, "Guys, please stop blowing smoke into our systems."
yeah, I
So
I mean they are hurting their own systems if they own that, like by
yeah,
doing this publicity stunt, I guess in a sense. These are great consoles. Like we could go all day about debating what's the better
I just
console,
wanted to say something on
right?
I
that.
mean, could we? Could we really though? Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I just wanted to state my point on this,
Okay.
my stance on this. I've never owned a console before.
Okay.
Xbox looks nice. The new Xbox looks nice. From the only information I have received about these two consoles are from Shashwat and Megan, right?
Mhm.
Whenever they talk about it, I listen to it. So I would say Xbox looks nice.
Okay.
PS5 sounds better in terms of like the specs and the
Mhm.
different like elements of that, the inside elements. I would say. So I would say both. If you can afford both, I would say buy both.
Yeah, that's a great point. Buy both.
Looking at hardware, I believe the Xbox is superior than the PS5.
Yeah, it might be, but like
So then why would you say PS5 is better?
PS5 is why I say PS5 is better because they have significantly better exclusive games,
mhm.
right? More
Oh, so
AAA.
just game based.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, like it's called a PlayStation. It's meant to be for games,
Okay, I agree with you. I agree
right?
with you.
And then they have like that new controller, bro. Just blows it out of the park. I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah. That's a
Right?
sick
Yes,
controller.
it's
Yeah.
bigger, but Shashua, yes, they did. I don't know if they copied off. I can't agree or deny that, right? But
Yeah,
it's the next generation. They don't release consoles every year.
yeah, it's like
Like they're supposed to, improve by their generations. It's supposed to be showing a generational leap. So I believe like they're in the right path.
yeah, like with the control thing that you brought up, like they haven't like all the games haven't been optimized for their controller, but I definitely want to see like what they do with that, right?
Right.
Because the haptics and all of that, the sensors they have going on, like and the
Hmm.
triggers and stuff, it looks amazing, right?
Hmm.
Like as much I will be like anti PS5 whatever, right? I can't deny like new technology, like it's great what they've done. It's just
Right.
right, it's just what you want. Like I think what has happened now is like people have with the PS4 and the Xbox One, like people have found their preference. So I'm pretty sure they will go with either one, right? That
Right.
what they like, what they wanted. Can't really change someone's opinion on it. It's just what you prefer, what you like is
That's where we'll stop. We'll continue this debate if you guys want
what.
us to talk about this because this is a whole we could have dedicated a whole episode on like an Xbox versus PS5 war, but
And I'll mediate that.
yeah,
I'll
it's
mediate
still too
this.
mediated. Let's go to our next topic, Shashwat.
Okay, so with the new arrivals coming, new MacBooks were released a couple of weeks ago. I just got this from the Apple website. They state that the CPU is 3.5 times faster, the GPU is 6 times faster, 15 times faster machine learning capabilities, battery life is better with the new M1 chip, and then they also have the new Big Sur update. So you guys probably heard from the other podcast, Philip is pro Apple. He's an Apple user. So, so Philip, what's your opinion on this? Because I think you can speak on it the best.
Yeah, the floor is yours now, Philip.
I think with the let's see, like they have stated a lot of things, right? And I've heard Shashard, like when we had previous talks, where Shashard himself has said Apple does state a lot of things and they most of the time does not end up fulfilling
Mm.
or standing to their promises. So I'm kind of iffy on this. I want to see. I'm gonna wait the next few months, right? I'm gonna see because I did have a plan on purchasing a MacBook this year, so I've held off from that plan, and I'm gonna make that purchase hopefully maybe in the next year or the year after, depending on how this all plays out. So hopefully the chip does hold to what they're saying because this promises they have made for the MacBook Air itself is actually insane. Because if this chip holds up to these promises, this MacBook Air will be faster than my MacBook Pro, which I got last year. So it's kind of insane to think about it, and it kind of hurts because I spent a good amount of money into this.
Yeah.
So to know that I could get a MacBook Air for 1,300 and beat my MacBook Pro that I have currently, it does put a sense of worry into me. But and in terms of the Big Sur, the new OS they have released,
Mm.
it's actually pretty sick. They completely changed up like the visual elements, the new dock, the new notification things. I'm still playing around with it.
Oh, did you get it? Did
I
you
just
download? You have it on right now?
yeah, I just updated it, so I still had to play around with it. But the few things I saw were like the dock and the notification bar and stuff, and it was almost a close to a 13 GB update, which I did not appreciate.
Big update.
I mean, it's an OS update, right? So
Yeah, it
unexpected.
is. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's a very Apple thing to do that they just release new products every year, which outweigh their expensive products. Very Apple thing. As well, Mebin, this is a question for you. Like, would this lure you into like the Apple side, maybe MacBook, like by stating all of these facts? And I'm pretty sure in their advert they stated that this is compared to a Windows laptop,
All
right?
right, all right, all right.
Yeah, they were comparing it a lot to
Let's
that.
Yeah.
let's watch it on the false news here. I was watching their event, right? And
Mm.
I don't know if correct me if I'm wrong, but they mentioned that the the chip is so efficient that they don't require like a fan in it, so they can make their
Yeah.
systems thinner. So
Okay.
tell me your experience with your MacBook, because
Okay.
I
My
since guys we're recording right now, but if we told Philip to I guess run like Visual Studio Code or like some other
Eclipse, yeah.
light
okay.
program,
Wow.
we tell him to play Among Us on his computer, it blows up, guys. I'm not even like lying here.
Okay, so my MacBook is a 1 year and 1 month old, or 2 months old, right? And it sounds like a jet engine. That's a sad fact. I bought it brand new, from Apple itself, and it sounds like a jet engine. So, the funny thing is, as Mevin mentioned, running lighter and like the lighter processing power programs like Visual, Eclipse, Discord even app sometimes, right? Does tend to turn my fan speed up a lot, and it does make a lot of noises. I've looked into it. Thermal throttling is an issue with thinner MacBooks, right? And Apple has recognized that. And to see Apple completely take out a fan out of the laptop, it just blows my mind because the claims they're making again 3 times faster, 3.5 times faster, 6 times faster, longer battery life, this and that. I just don't understand. Maybe my brain's not at that level yet that Apple's at, but I do not understand how this is all gonna work together without a fan
technically,
and the laptop blowing up.
technically, it makes sense. If you don't have a fan, it's not gonna sound like a jet engine. So
So then you're just gonna have a burning hot laptop to
I,
work
I,
on.
I guess. I'm actually kind of curious to see how this is gonna look because the specs they are like saying that this chip will deliver is extremely high, and Apple, yes, you are correct. Apple doesn't, they don't meet their standard at times, but like when they do meet it, it's something like
It's
definitely
insane
it's insane, right? And they're also doing this on a
because
new
they have been working on this for a while too.
Yes, they're also doing this on a new scale. I believe this is a smaller chip
Yeah,
size.
yeah. It's a smaller
Yeah, I
ship,
think
yeah.
so. Yeah. Another thing I noticed is with this new chip introduction, they decided to play on their pricing. A lot of things. So, like for example, you guys know about my
Mhm.
USB-C ports, right? 4 ports is all I have on my laptop. That is my power port. That is my USB. Any kind of USB port, any kind of HDMI port, everything has to be plugged into those 4 ports. As of the new release, the same model as mine, right? So the same space, the SSD, the same chip, the same what's it called? Not the chip, sorry. The same RAM, everything as mine, the same specs as mine, except for the chip difference. they have reduced the 4 Thunderbolt or like USB-C ports to now 3, right? And that laptop itself costs $2,200. I don't understand why they're reducing the port sizes because ports are so efficient. Like today, for example, when I was streaming at church, all 4 ports were plugged in, and I had extenders. Like I had hubs onto each 4 of my port. So like I think you guys can understand like how valuable ports are because most Windows laptops have dedicated ports to each thing, right? Whereas Macs trying to make it skinnier and they're like reducing the port sizes as port amounts as well. So that was like one big factor that stood out for me that I did not like and appreciate at all because I was looking forward to like the 16-inch MacBook for next year, possibly coming with like more than 4 ports, maybe 6 ports. And then to see Apple pull out another port from the 13-inch, I have no hope for that.
Does Apple have do Apple sell like, dongles like squids? Like, like a USB hub
Yeah,
separate?
they do.
Oh, they do. It's
Yeah,
insane. But they sell each piece at a time. They don't sell compiled like like my hubs have like 2 USBs, Ethernet, HDMI, power, and also like SD card readers, right?
right.
Whereas Apple sells each of those, not all of them together, and each of those are like
I
$80,
mean,
$100, $70. It's a marketing
yeah,
scam.
exactly. Like, they took away the charging brick. They're going to tell people to buy the charging brick. They took away headphones and like, you know, the what are they called? The AirPods, and now the
Yeah,
earpods. They took
headphones,
out the
headphones.
earpods and now they're telling people to buy the AirPods. That's how Apple makes money. I mean, I
And
guess
people who love to
pe-
follow the trend
people
do
fall for it.
follow it.
People fall for it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not saying it's bad. It's just that's what you got to do to stay in the market, I guess.
I feel like this entire tech trend, this specific tech trend, was just like directed towards me. Thank you guys for that.
Hey, we talked about PS5s and Xboxes too. All right, allow it.
uh,
But I'm super
um,
excited for it. I am kind of just like waiting for it to be released and see people, do reviews and see how that's gonna look like,
Mhm.
guys.
Waiting for that too. Yeah.
yeah, like that. I think concludes it. It's just that's the tech transfer day. I would just like to say, Apple, you can still sponsor us. We haven't done a lot. We haven't said a lot of things.
Hundred
Uh,
percent. Yeah, we don't talk trash. We're kind of just speaking our
yeah,
opinions out on the podcast, and I believe we're allowed to do that. And if you don't like that, you can message us at _Stark Enterprise. So, with that, I think we can conclude our episode, right, guys?
yeah,
Yep.
So, if you'd like to listen to more of our stuff, check us out at Stark Enterprises on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcast. If you have any questions that you're dying to ask or have a guest idea that you want to see featured on the podcast, shoot us a DM at _Stark Enterprises. Want to get to know our projects a little bit better? Check out our website in the link on our Instagram bio. With that, I am Mebin Matthew. With me was Philip Thomas and Shashwat Chauhan. And this has been Stark Talks.